My name is Sarah, and this is my story. Ever since I was a little girl, I had a dream. I wanted to be someone who could stand in front of people and tell stories, stories that would inspire, entertain, and maybe even change lives. But there was one thing standing in my way: my English. I knew the basics, of course. I could say things like, "Good morning," or, "What is your name?" But whenever I tried to speak about anything more complicated, I'd freeze. My mind would go blank, and I didn't know how to continue. It was like the words were there, but I couldn't reach them. This made me feel frustrated because I knew I had so much to share. But I didn't have the confidence or the language skills to express myself. Writing wasn't any easier. I would sit in front of a blank page, ready to write, but the words wouldn't come. I'd start a sentence, stop, then erase everything, and give up. I felt stuck, like no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't making any progress. One day, I decided enough was enough. I told myself, "Sarah, if you want to be the storyteller you've always dreamed of being, you have to get better at English." I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I was ready to try. That was the moment my journey began. The next morning, I walked down the street to the local library. I had been there many times before, but this time, I felt different. I had a purpose. I was going to improve my English no matter how long it took. When I entered, Mrs. Davis, the librarian, gave me her usual warm smile. She knew me well, but today, she could see the determination in my eyes. "What can I do for you, Sarah?" she asked kindly. "I want to get better at English," I told her. "But I don't know where to start." Mrs. Davis thought for a moment, then said, "The best way to learn is by reading. Start with something simple, and as your English improves, you can challenge yourself with harder books. Would you like me to help you choose a book?" I nodded, feeling a bit nervous but also excited. She led me to a shelf filled with books for beginners like me. She handed me a small book and said, "This is a great place to start. It's not too difficult, and you'll learn new words along the way." I took the book home and sat down to read. At first, it wasn't easy. I had to stop and look up words in the dictionary, and some sentences didn't make sense. But I didn't give up. Slowly, I started to understand more and more. The words that once seemed confusing started to make sense. The sentences flowed better, and reading became enjoyable. As the day passed, I made it a habit to read every evening. Little by little, I felt my confidence grow. I began to write again. At first, I only wrote short sentences like, "Today is sunny," or, "I went to the park." But soon, those sentences turned into paragraph. I started writing about my day, my thoughts, and my dreams. I remember the first time I spoke English in public without feeling scared. It was at a cafe. The waiter asked me, "What would you like to order?" Normally, I would have just pointed at the menu, too shy to speak. But this time, I said, "I'd like a cup of tea, please." And the words came out naturally. I didn't stumble, I didn't hesitate. I spoke clearly and confidently. That small victory gave me a huge boost of confidence. Learning English wasn't just about memorizing words and grammar rules. It was about practicing every day. I realized that the more I used the language, the more comfortable I became. I started watching movies and TV shows in English, and even though I didn't understand everything at first, I kept going. I knew that every time I listened to English, I was getting better. One day, I had an idea. If I wanted to be a storyteller, why wait? I could start now. So, I opened my notebook and began to write my own short story. It wasn't perfect, and I had to look up some words, but that didn't stop me. I kept writing. Page after page, my story grew. And when I finished, I read it aloud to myself. For the first time, I felt proud of what I had written. It wasn't just a story, it was proof of how far I had come. I still remember the first time I read my story to someone else. It was my best friend, Maria. I was nervous, but I took a deep breath and started reading. As I spoke, I saw the smile on her face. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "Sarah, you've really improved. Your English is so much better now." That moment was a turning point for me. It showed me that all the hard work, all the hours spent reading, writing, and practicing, were paying off. I wasn't just learning English, I was mastering it. Of course, my journey didn't end there. There are still challenges, moments when I felt frustrated or unsure. But I kept going because I knew that every step, no matter how small, was bringing me closer to my goal. I continued to read more difficult books, watch movies without subtitles, and have conversations in English. And with each passing day, I felt more confident. One of the biggest lessons I learned was that mistakes are a part of the process. Every time I studied over a word or made a grammatical error, I wasn't failing, was learning. I realized that it's okay to make mistakes because they help us grow. In fact, every mistake I made taught me something new. Now, when I look back at where I started, I can hardly believe how far I've come. I went from being someone who was afraid to speak and write in English to someone who could tell stories, hold conversations, and even write my own book. And I know that if I can do it, so can you. If you're on your own journey to learning English, my advice is simple: don't give up. It's okay to feel frustrated sometimes. It's okay to make mistakes. The important thing is to keep going, to practice every day, and to believe in yourself. Because with every word you read, every sentence you write, and every conversation you have, you're getting better. You're moving closer to mastering English. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you to keep pushing forward, no matter where you are in your English learning journey. You've got his, and I believe in you. Keep learning, keep growing, and soon, you'll be a master of English.